YouTube. Pop culture, Cosmos. Live video testing.
Testing. Testing.
All right, perfect. We're good, man. All right, take off whenever you're ready.
On this week's episode, it's a November to remember. What's the early word on the Eternals? And why Sears will always have a place in our childhood hearts. All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, Humanican Media, or any one of the number of things that we do, including the fact that we're the #1 tabletop RPG streamer on Facebook. And in fact, as we speak, we have a game going on right now that you can watch on Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos. Plus, we have the latest news and trends in pop culture every single day that we post right there at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. And anything that you can do to support us, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is our November to remember for Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com, Humanican Media, everything that he does there, including his awesome shows, Topicocalypse and the Super BS Gamescast, plus his amazing book, Congratulations, You Suck, which you can get right now at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. At Amazon and Barnes & Noble is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What is up? I love that maybe this was a Freudian slip. You said Bombs and Noble because it's kind of like what their revenue's been doing, ever since the advent of the digital book. And
Yes.
I used to love going into bookstores. You remember Walden Books? I loved that store. Like, it's just part of shopping mall culture. But I love going into Walden Books and like checking out books, even more so than Barnes and Noble. But I tell you, man, I don't think we're, as we're getting into talking about the toy stores and all that, I just don't think we're ever gonna come back to an era like that ever again.
Well, I know you got the Halloween stuff on because we're taping this on Halloween. You got the garb already, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Where Are You? The best animated show ever. But we won't go too much into that today. I know that everybody is so scared on the video game end because Roblox has been down more than 24 hours. So hopefully by the time you hear this, their servers have been fixed. But I know everybody's freaking out because that game is still, even to this day, so popular. In fact, our most popular episode is on Roblox. So I'll tell you what, if everybody out there hopefully is getting through this tough time, they'll hopefully have a good and safe time during the Halloween period. All the Roblox fans will get through this period of time and they'll be back up and running by the time you hear this. But our best wishes to you that you had a great and safe Halloween right here from all of us at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it is going to be a great show, my friend. We've got Jeff Sloboda coming up on the back end for a few minutes talking about the advanced word on the Eternals. And boy, has there been a lot of advanced word. So he'll go in on that. Also, as well, we're going to be talking some favorite toy memories, including a place that's beloved in our hearts This week, it's going to be based off of Sears, a
Mm-hmm.
once retail giant, in fact, the retail giant in the industry at one time, unfortunately has seen very rough times. And there's not many of them out there left, but we'll go ahead and embark on some memories on the back end of the show for that. Plus, also as well, we do want to go ahead and give everybody an update on Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game. I want to go ahead quickly on to that coming up on the back end of the show because I said we would. Plus, also, I said we would go ahead and embark on our favorite Wes Anderson movies with the French Dispatch out. So hopefully, Josh can touch on his favorites and I can touch on mine on the back end of the show as well. But in the front part, we've got a big half hour devoted to this, the whole stuff, the whole shebang coming in November, because there's a ton of stuff that's coming to streaming outlets, to movies, to video games. It's all coming out, my friend, and I cannot tell you how excited I am for November. There's absolutely a ton of stuff. You always talk about overload and not having enough time in the day to take care of, watch all this stuff, to play all this stuff. Well, my friend, November is going to do just that.
Yes. Yeah. No, I was. Sorry, I'm trying to find a list here. What's coming out? But I guess we're covering.
It's a hard one because there's so much stuff. You're not going to be able to find a bullet point list.
Okay.
I'm already going to tell you that right now. It's going to be all over the place.
I'm gonna let you just throw it at me and we'll talk about
Okay.
it. But
All
yeah,
right.
yeah, no. I mean, I saw they dropped that. I'm sure we'll talk about this when we get there. But they dropped that trailer for Cowboy Bebop, which was actually like I was pleasantly surprised by it. But yeah, there's a lot coming out, and Disney's got Shang-Chi coming out on November. Lot of stuff. But what I'm curious, what I'm looking for is there anything outside of the bigs, that is going to be appealing to me, like something, some like hidden gem amongst all like these big things dropping that I'm gonna sit down and be like, okay, I'm gonna watch this.
Well, there may be. I'll point out as much as I can within the course of the first half hour. So, what do you want to start off first, my friend? Movies, streaming, or video games?
Whew. Okay, let's talk movies.
All right. Movies are pretty easy. They're pretty cut and dry. When we first start off with, I can tell you what. Of course, it starts off with the Eternals on November 5th as the major release right there for you. Of course, it's Marvel's upcoming big, huge next thing that's going on. The advance word, and again, I'm going to be talking more about this with Jeff Sloboda. The reviews so far have come in a little bit lower than expected, but a lot of people are still excited for this. You are more excited for this than I am. I am not holding it in the highest regards. I told you I've never got that warm and fuzzy feeling like I did with Shang-Chi, Black Widow, and some other movies that have come out in the Marvel Universe, but I am going to catch it. I know we are planning to go ahead to do so, just when it comes out. But yes, that's the major movie that's coming out on the first week. We've got the next week. We've got Clifford the Big Red Dog is the major release there.
That one's a weird one for me because I didn't even know that was coming out till last week when a trailer just happened to pop up for something I was watching on like Netflix, not Netflix, but like Amazon Prime or Hulu or something. Yeah, but it was on ESPN Plus. It popped up when I was watching hockey. So if I had not seen that trailer, I would have not even known this movie existed.
I mean, that's something like, again, if they don't tell you ahead of time and you don't know, then it's doomed to fail for the most part. So that's something we've always talked about in the past. But something that's coming out the next week after that on the weekend coming up for the 12th, Belfast, which is getting a lot of advanced praise as an Oscar-worthy contender. Kenneth Branagh has a movie that he directed here, which is sort of semi-biographical. It's about his childhood growing up in Belfast, Ireland. So looking forward to seeing that because that is getting a lot of praise right now as a leading contender for the Oscars. On the 19th, you have Ghostbusters Afterlife is the major release there. The thing I want to ask you is, could have been a mistake to release it there. I think it'll still do very well, even though it'll be facing off against King Richard, which will be doing a day and date streaming on HBO Max. But I really think that it had a better chance to get a larger, wider audience if it would have been released this week, Halloween week. But maybe they didn't want to be jam-packed between Dune and the Eternals, so they spaced it out over here. Your thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife?
No, I actually kind of think that this is a good time for that to come out because that is what you said, the 16th or the 18th?
It's coming out, the weekend of the 19th.
19th. Okay, so that is the Friday that everybody's getting out of school for Thanksgiving break. So I feel like that is actually the most opportune time for a movie like that to come out, because you have these kids.
It's just it seemed more mood fitting during Halloween, but I
totally understand that because wasn't it originally slated for October? Didn't it get pushed back?
I think it did get pushed back. It's like mid-October, and then it got pushed back to this date. So, like you said, it may work out so well because again, it would have been sandwiched between Dune and the Eternals. So maybe they could do what they can to avoid that. Resident Evil.
Wait, hold on. 1 second. I just want to push this thing. There's an article. I think it was written by Variety. I'll send the link to Gerald here, and you can post it on the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page. But there's a really interesting interview with the Jason Reitman, right? Who's directing
Jason
Reitman, who's directing Ghostbusters, and he's talking about this dynamic he has with his father and what it was like having his dad on set and all that. It's really, really cool piece. But I'll send it to Gerald. You guys should check it out. It makes Ghostbusters feel like this very human piece that I now am even more inclined to watch.
Well, the reviews have already come out already for most of the major review sites because they gave an advanced look for it, and they're really, for the most part, positive. This looks like a Ghostbusters that you'll be able to come back to. I know the Ghostbusters reboot before a few years ago did not get well received, but this looks like something that a lot of people would like to go get and get into. Paul Rudd is going to have a busy November because he's got something else coming up in the streaming market that's coming up later in the show.
Yeah.
On the 24th, it's Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is something I know you're excited about. I know Jamie Monroy from Game Source is excited about. So that's going to compete, I guess, kind of because it'll be in wide release, but it'll also be day and date, I believe, on Netflix. But then also Encanto. That'll be a release for Walt Disney Studios animation feature. It's not a Pixar. It's a Walt Disney Studios animation feature. Encanto will also be the other wide release then. So I'm looking forward to some good stuff. There'll also be mixed in some smaller films, some of which might get acclaim for Oscar contenders, like we talked about with Belfast. But
do you think that Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho is going to get mentioned for an Oscar?
Well, I know it did not fare well at the box office,
but it's getting
both that and
praise.
It's getting praise. It's getting some good reviews, so it might be remembered. But the fact that it didn't do well at the box office won't help it. Also, the fact that Antlers from Guillermo del Toro, which just came out this weekend as well, got unfortunately snowed under by Dune.
Yeah,
which Dune also is something
buried
that
in the
second
sand.
week. Yeah, buried in the sand per se. So Dune has one out for this weekend. So Antlers is also a movie that may be forgotten about as well because of the unfortunate way that it got dealt with at the box office. Again, if you're not coming out with something big and large, it's going to be very tough because niche movies, Oscar contender movies, we talked about this before, it's going to be very hard for those movies to be attended to in this period of time. I think the only movie I've seen with us that's a smaller niche type movie is The French Dispatch, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show when we talk about Wes Anderson. That's the only movie that has garnered a large enough following to go ahead and find any success at the box office for a smaller film. So that's something I think that audience has yet to come back to for this period of pandemic. But that's the list of what we got for the major movies that are coming out in November. I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great time indeed. I mean, that's your November slate for movies, my friend, and that's easy enough. But what about when it comes to video games? Because we're going to go ahead and streaming, and streaming's got a ton of stuff. But we'll do that last, my friend. But video games, you've got the major powerhouses that are coming up, my friend. And wanted to ask you this: when you've got Animal Crossing is coming out with an updated version with all new DLC that's coming out for Switch
Yeah,
owners.
and you actually get that for free if you sign up for the Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis expansions for the Nintendo Online.
Which Jamie Monroy and I really are. I'm on the fence about it. I'm really not in love with it. The update and how much more you're going to have to pay for it, kind of forcing on you if you don't have Animal Crossing.
Yeah, and like the Nintendo 64 games that are on there are not running so well, from what I'm hearing from people.
The emulation. Yep, I heard that same thing as well. So that's 2 strikes against this new update. Call of Duty Vanguard is also coming out November 5th. Forza Horizon 5 is November 9, and the other major title that's coming out in November is Battlefield 2042, November 19th. There's also the Xbox 20th anniversary that's also coming out the middle part of next month, but don't get me started on that because then I'll just bemoan the fact that Halo Infinite is not coming out on the 20th anniversary of Halo Combat Evolved. Yeah, let's not. We'll go into that at another rant on another week again. So, but your thoughts?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say there's also the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, the new Skyrim thing, and the Pokemon remake.
Because because Bethesda has not monetized Skyrim enough. There is the Skyrim anniversary, 10th anniversary edition that's coming out, which is going to add some new elements from Morrowind and also Oblivion.
Yeah,
and then of course the
new story stuff too, I guess.
Yeah, new story stuff. Yep, a new way to get Skyrim. Imagine that. Did we not say that this one is the game that Bethesda's just going to bleed dry in any way?
Definitely. If it's at a $40 price point, I might pick it up. Anything over $40, I think that will be too much for me to buy an old game like that.
God forbid you would want to just add it in a free update. Can't do that for all the stuff, for all the units that you have out there. But like you said, the GTA Trilogy, which is going to have the great games from the past, San Andreas, it's going to have Vice City, and it's going to have GTA 3. That's all going to be on one package, sold at a normal high price though. But you are going to have to pay the price for it. But it is the GTA Trilogy, and that's also coming out in November as well. So we're going to go ahead and break everything down in those top video games for you this month. But what are your thoughts on November for video game releases?
I mean, yeah, so there's enough coming out to like really consume people's time throughout most of November. Like you have Forza, right? Anyone who plays Forza knows that is a game that's probably going to take 2 to 3 weeks to finish, unless you're someone who literally just sits there and plays all day. Grand Theft Auto, I don't know how people are feeling about this. You had mentioned that you had interest in going back to those worlds. I don't really have a history with those older Grand Theft Autos, just because when I was a kid, it wasn't the fact that I wasn't allowed to play them, because I was, but I just wasn't interested in them, if that makes sense. But
there's some, if you can go by or get past whatever updated look that it has, because it will still look a little dated. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. If you can get by that, there are hundreds of hours waiting for you with GTA Trilogy.
Yeah. And as for the other things, I'm not going to pick up this new Battlefield. I don't have time. With Halo, I'll probably play the multiplayer just because I've played with all the others. But like with Battlefield, I don't have time to sit there and play these massive online multiplayer games. Not that it's an MMO, but these multiplayer only games. Like, I love the idea of them, but I don't believe in having to pay $60 to pick something up like that. Like it just, if I had a single player, I'd be more inclined to check it out. But I don't think that this is for me. Outside of that, I think just like Forza and Pokemon are going to be the things that I'm going to be checking out this month, because I'm still playing Tales of Arise, and it seems like I've barely put a dent in that game. So, I'm kind of like spacing out my gaming time until, Halo, or until December gets here, when, in which case I'll hopefully have time to go back and play Halo and Guardians of the Galaxy and all these other, Far Cry and all these games I've missed over the past couple months.
Well, that's the thing. Like you said, it's also November's going to bring back all the great stuff that's coming out. I mean, with Diamond and Pearl, that's going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to be looking at as well. So that's coming out, I think, on the 19th, if I remember correctly. So that's another thing you want to look out for if you are a Pokemon fan. But if you've already had those type of releases before that they've had on the Switch with the Pokemon, I'm not sure if it's going to go over as well as the previous Pokemons that have been on the Switch.
No, absolutely not. I mean, because it's got that chibi style to it, where it's like they're small people instead of the full size like animations you're seeing in Sword and Shield. But for some people, like myself, like I missed out on that generation because I never played after Game Boy Advance. I didn't play, or was it Game Boy Advance? I mean, or Game Boy Color. After Game Boy Color, I didn't play any more Pokemon after that. Like I jumped back on when the Switch, the Let's Go Eevee and Sword and Shield came out, so I kind of missed out on that whole era. So I'm kind of excited to go back and play those. But yeah, I totally get what you mean for like the older generation who these games are like sort of maybe trying to appeal to. I just don't know if those gamers have time to sit down and play those games anymore.
Well, again, we'll wait and see, but it is going to be a very solid month. Forza Horizon, that's going to be also available, my friend. Your thoughts on that before we head on to the streaming marketplace?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on Forza, and then I want to get your thoughts on something real quick. Yeah, so Forza is a game I am looking forward to because I've said this before on the show. Like I love Forza, not for like the components of like being able to play online and all that, but I just love it because if you're someone who like works all day and you just want to sit down and play a mindless game, like not that speaks bad things about Forza, but you can just sit on the couch and play this game, and it is the most relaxing thing in the world, unless you're like losing every race. But if to me, like it is the pinnacle of unwinding, is just sitting down, playing Forza Horizon, and just like zooming my way across this map, doing the different things. Like the game has enough content in it. Like I'm still playing Forza Horizon 4, 2 years after the last one came out. So there's enough content in there for me to like feel like it's a worthy investment. Like I honestly feel like Forza alone has paid for the time I got out of Forza has paid for my Games Pass subscription.
Well, there you go. So it's going to be a really packed month for video games, as always in November. But yes, Animal Crossing New Horizons with the update 2.0 and the DLC that's going to be available through the online system. You got Call of Duty Vanguard. Again, you've got Forza Horizon 5. You've got Battlefield 2042. You do have Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. You've got a lot of great stuff that's coming to Pokemon. Like you said, Pokemon, what is it? Brilliant Diamond, Pearl.
Yeah, Shining Pearl, Brilliant Diamond.
Yes, Shining Pearl, Pokemon, Shining Pearl, Brilliant Diamond. That's coming out in November as well. Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. That's going to be something a lot of people are going to be looking at. Plus also as well, Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation Code, Fairy Volume 2. That's also coming out.
So
Nerf Legends. There's some stuff.
On the note of the Gundam, this if you go to Target, you could buy these things called like Gundam Breaker Battlegrounds. I think it has content for the game, but it also has a code for an exclusive anime for you to check out if you're a fan. But before we move on, can I get your thoughts on something?
Okay, I just want to mention real quick that two more things, and then we'll really quickly go to that, and that is Disney Classic Games Collection, which is coming out, and then also as well want to mention that where did I put it? I lost it. Oh yeah, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic that's coming to the Switch. It's not the new revamped version. This is the version that's been out on mobile and other outlets. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Okay. So while we're here, I just want to get your thoughts on the Halo footage, because I know that you had been weary about Halo because there's no campaign footage released. So what are your thoughts now after seeing the new trailer and the campaign footage?
Well, again, it's Halo. Looks pretty solid. I didn't want the Beast to be doing all the talking. That was kind of a letdown. I mean, that part of it, as far as where the Beast, rah, 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 talking fast, you humans are worthless, rah, 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 rah. Okay, that's great. But I wanted to understand more about the dynamic of it and why humanity is really just lost. It's such a dark and it's such a desperate place and desperate way that humanity is. Going into the game. That's something I wanted a little bit more advanced word on, but it looks good. I mean, it looks Halo. It's something I'll play, but after Halo 5, I know a lot of people are pretty down on the series as a whole. So this is going to be more open world, which I think is a good direction as opposed to a linear format. But we'll talk about the linear formats later, how they still have a definite place in the video game world. But I'm looking forward to what I'm seeing with Halo Infinite. But I'm not overly hyped by it. I'm not overly buzzed by it, if that makes sense. It looks Halo. It looks like Halo.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and I'm excited for the same reasons you are. Like, I love the open world. I'm just the story. To me, Halo has always been about the story. Like, the gameplay's just been second to me. So I just hope it has a good story, better than Halo 5. And it kind of like wraps up the past, 6 or 7 years since Halo 4 came out. So I don't know. That's just what I'm excited about. And I'm excited to get in there and use the grappling hook. That looks kind of cool.
But the series has had declining returns, and as far as storytelling is concerned, and it's gone down, 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 down. And the problem is you have a base that's very skeptical that it can get repaired. So I'm hoping Halo Infinite, with the year plus delay, hint, that has taken place, let's hope that gets the series run on track. Because if it comes out and it's received poorly or it's received average reviews or whatnot, that to me is an epic fail on the part of Microsoft.
Yeah, no, I agree. So it'll be, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it more when it comes out. So here's the hope, and it's good.
Here's the hope, and it's good. But that's for December, my friend. That's for December, and you'll get to see a lot more highlights on the Xbox 20 presentation that's coming out in the middle part of this month, and we'll report on it right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But what are your thoughts out there on what's going on with the movies for November and also the video games for November? Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up right now, my friend, is streaming, because we need to go ahead and pay a lot of attention to streaming. Oh my gosh, there's a ton of it. So let's get into it, my friend. We're going to go with we're going to go with the big boy on top, and that is Netflix. Netflix, obviously, you've talked about already and hinted already with Cowboy Bebop. That's coming out on the 19th. I mean, right in that middle part of November, we're going to have some massive shows, because there's a ton of stuff that's going to be coming out in all forms of entertainment. So Cowboy Bebop is coming out the November 19th, plus the final season of Narcos Mexico is coming out on November 5th. You've got so much stuff that's coming out. Tiger King 2, November 17th. Masters of the Universe Revelation, Part 2 of that season, that drops on the 23rd. It's just so much coming out. Then they've got The Harder They Fall with Idris Elba and Regina King. That comes out November 3rd. You've got Red Notice with Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds. That comes out on November 12th. That's Tick Tick Boom. That's the musical we talked about with Lin-Manuel Miranda directing it. That's coming on November 19th. A ton of stuff on Netflix, man, including Cowboy Bebop. So your thoughts on what's coming out with Netflix?
The one with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot sounded cool. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be good, but I'm intrigued by the idea of them all on screen together. I didn't know the one with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I don't know why is it like every episode we talk about him, I can never pronounce his name. But I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'll have to definitely check that out, because my wife's a big fan of musicals. But yeah, I'm really excited about Cowboy Bebop. I don't necessarily know like how I'm gonna feel about it, but because the director had said he's not trying to copy the anime, but as I'm seeing more footage, it seems like he is trying to, in fact, copy the anime. So I don't know. Like I'm not setting the bar. I'm not setting my hopes too high for it. So I'm hoping I can just kind of like cruise in and casually enjoy it, as opposed to like having a checklist out and saying it's got to be this, and this.
I'm excited for it. And as far as Tick Tick Boom, we've already talked about the year in musicals. And then when I spoke to Melinda about Tick Tick Boom, Lin-Manuel Miranda. We were hoping that this could somehow give a boost to musicals because musicals in the movie or streaming format has not fared so well, fared well so far outside of Annette, which is the only one that's gotten some really kind of acclaim or kind of good notice and good vibes. So we're hoping that this will kickstart the stream, the movie experience for musicals coming up again. HBO Max, a lot of it's continuation with HBO Max. They're really gearing for December because they've got a lot of stuff, good stuff coming in December. But if you're continuing with Succession, you've got Insecure, Curb Your Enthusiasm. That series is continuing. For the most part, that's what you're going to be looking at with HBO Max. I mean, they've got some other stuff that's coming out, like the Gossip Girl reboot that's going to head of the class is that's coming out. They've got Southside, Kamikaze. They've got a lot of good stuff that's coming out, but it's not really just something that they're going to be, or you're going to have to go out of your way for, unless you're continuing the series, which I mentioned earlier. With Disney Plus, though, two really good things you got to go ahead and go out of your way to see. Hawkeye, which I'm really super excited about, which is really giving me that Die Hard feel. That is coming out with its first 2 episodes on November 24th. Looking extremely forward to that as a 6-episode event. This could really, how should I say, this could really justify Hawkeye's, a true Avengers experience, plus also bring in Kate Bishop and initiate her, plus bringing a whole gambit of new villains as well to the Marvel Cinematic Universe scene. So I'm really looking forward to Hawkeye. And the Beatles Get Back, which is a 3-part documentary that's being directed by Peter Jackson. That's from the Beatles' Let It Be 1970 album, and when they did that their final performance per se. That's touching on a lot of it. So I'm really looking forward to it as a fan of the Beatles. The Beatles Get Back.
Yeah. So I haven't. A lot of this stuff like I don't really know anything about, but yeah, it does. There are some things that sound interesting, and I'm sure with like He-Man is something I've been wanting to check out, and I haven't had a chance to like sit down and watch that.
It's good. It's really good. I really was surprised. I had low expectations, and the Masters of the Universe revelation is really good.
Yeah. So I mean, I've watched the like first 2 episodes, and like it's not something that I disliked because of the controversy or whatever. It's just something I didn't have time to finish, and like I have enjoyed what I've watched, but I just haven't had a chance to like sit down and see the series to fruition. So I don't really know as much about it as I'd like to, but I'm stoked to know that there's a second part coming out because I'd really love to find the time to sit down and watch that series.
Also coming out to Disney Plus is Home Sweet Home Alone, which I don't know if it's going to be good or going to be a train wreck, but there you go. It's I know a lot of people are actually looking forward to it to continue the Home Alone series. Becoming Cousteau is going to National Geographic, that part of the Disney Plus experience. And then, of course, Jungle Cruise and Shang-Chi will be coming November 12th as part of the Disney Plus Day. They'll also have a lot of announcements and a lot of upcoming looks at a lot of stuff. So we will be going ahead and breaking that down to you as well, breaking that down for you as well right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. I'm telling you, that mid-November, that 10-day period of time is going to be really very busy for us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But before we head on out for the streaming market, before we head out at our look at our November preview for streaming outlets, Apple TV Plus. If you're already going to it because of what's going on with Foundation, if you're continuing that series, which has been pretty good so far, you've also have Dickinson. That's also coming out on the 5th. That series. Then you have Finch, a movie with Tom Hanks that's coming out on November 5th. The Shrink Next Door with Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell, that's coming out on the 12th. So really look for that as far as it's concerned. And then also the Invasion series, that's coming out as well. So looking forward to that as far as that's concerned. I'm sorry. Invasion is already out. So yeah, Invasion, that series is continuing.
Yeah, I have actually really wanted to watch that because I've heard mixed reviews about it, but all of them at the end of the reviews
I heard it's a slow burn.
Yeah, well, that's
a really slow burn.
That's what I've heard, but all of them at the end of the reviews are like, I'm going to watch more just to see what happens. So, maybe it's something that's going to pick up near the end, but I don't know. Like I have Sam Neill, Aliens, like count me in,
There you go. I heard it's a slow burn, so please, if you're going to watch it, please stay with it because I heard it gets much better as the series goes on, and that's Invasion, that series. But again, Apple Plus is starting to ramp it up. It's starting to get a little better, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're delivering. I've been critical of them in the past, but I'm starting to ease my criticism of them as far as the fact that they have so much money and have not put in too much content yet. But it is something that to look for with Finch, The Shrink Next Door, Dickinson with a continuing Invasion and Foundation. So, all these one word movies that they've got in series. It's so funny because, but Apple Plus, which is, moving right along, they're getting a little bit more. So definitely looking forward to that, to seeing what they've got to deliver for audiences out there. Hulu, I will want to put, I know I've been even more critical on Hulu for other altogether different reasons, but Hulu is coming out with the second season of The Great, starring Ellie Fanning, and I know a lot of people were looking forward to that, to seeing how that series has extended itself. I know a lot of people are asking about Pig, which is a movie coming out on the 26th, which is reinventing Nicolas Cage yet again. So I know a lot of people are looking for that, looking at that as well. But the thing I wanted to mention for something you said that might be under the radar for streaming outlets, my friend, is coming to Hulu on November 17th. And that is from Marvel, and that is Hit Monkey. And 10 episodes are coming right there for you on November 17th. So I want to hear your thoughts on Marvel's Hit Monkey. This is one of those side series in the Marvel world out there that's kind of niche. It's going to be kind of quirky, and it's going to come around at time again in that 10-day period of time in the mid-November-ish stuff, like with all the stuff going on. And I know Cowboy Bebop is going to be that stylistic show that everybody's going to gravitate towards, but a movie, a series with style that looks okay, that looks like something that might be very interesting to see, might just actually be Marvel's Hit Monkey.
Yeah, so this is something I just found out about recently, and I know they've talked about it, but I didn't know that it was actually like done and made. Yeah, I mean it could be good. I don't really know enough to like speak on it, but Marvel has all these like weird side projects.
Did you ever check out the series on comic books?
No, it's just not one. There are all these series by Marvels that I've seen. They have like Reptile or whatever is another one about the hero who's like has the power of reptiles and stuff like that. And they're things that I've just been wanting to pick up over time, but I just haven't. I never did it. So like I don't have. There's a lot of these things, like Hit Monkey and the Condor, Reptile, whatever, that I would like to have history with, but I don't, and like, isn't Hit Monkey's animated, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that's the only thing that I think might push people away from it is the fact that it is animated and is on Hulu, but, just the fact that it's on Hulu and not Disney Plus goes to show that, they don't have the faith in it that is going to be required for this show to be successful.
Well, they're not going to put it on Disney Plus because I'm assuming it has some adult themed content on it. So God forbid that they would want to go ahead and test
like
the lines out there.
What MODOK or whatever.
Yeah, and that's the problem though. Again, with all the good stuff that they have on Hulu, it's not out there to a broader audience because Hulu is very limited on its audience. But that's another rant that I've had before that I will probably have again on the whole concept of not just putting everything on Hulu onto Disney Plus and then calling it a day. But yeah, that's another thing altogether. But let's close out the preview for November streaming with Paramount Plus. Mayor of Kingstown. If you have not had enough Jeremy Renner for the month of November, you're going to get a little bit of taste before Hawkeye comes out because he's starring in a movie with Kyle Chandler, Mayor of Kingstown. So you might want to check that out on Paramount Plus. Star Trek Discovery has its season 4 debut right in the middle of November, November 18th. So that's something, of course, I'm very excited about because Star Trek Discovery is now to me grown into a very, very good series and something I look forward to because it's it's become a very good representation of the Star Trek IP. And also, Clifford the Big Red Dog, if you didn't catch it in theaters, it will be available on November 10th, day and date, with the theaters release. So it's going to be another movie that's the day and date, just to let you know on that. And basically, there's just, they got other stuff like the Challenge All Stars, Real World Homecoming Los Angeles. That's a reunion special, and the Challenge All Stars coming out also in the mid-November area. So there's some good stuff there. But this thing I wanted to talk about with Paramount Plus and the streaming stuff, of course, Yellowstone, which will come out on November 7th. That's going to be a big hit for the Paramount Network. That's going to be streaming on that stuff. That's going to be on Paramount. Wait, what? Oh, the last thing I want to talk about, because Yellowstone is not going to be on Paramount Plus, but it's going to be on Paramount Network's website. So that's going to be something really weird how they're trying to do that. Maybe they're trying to monetize Yellowstone because of its popularity, which kind of sounds like it. So it's kind of weird how they're doing that. But the last thing to Paramount Plus is South Park Post-COVID, which is going to be a special episode specifically for Paramount Plus. So definitely looking forward to seeing what they can bring to that series. Will it be just a throw-in episode, or will it be something that they do real special for Paramount Plus? So I'm ready to go ahead and check out what Paramount Plus has to offer. A lot of great things overall, my friend. The month of November, man, is on overload. Can you handle it all?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just I hardly have time to watch stuff as it is. So I'm hoping I can at least watch a couple things.
Well, we'll see what happens there, my friend. But we gave you a preview of what to look forward to in the world of video games, the world of streaming, and the world of movies. Share your thoughts on what you're going to check out, and if it's way too much, not to mention our updates on Black Friday for you. Black Friday is coming out very, very soon. That's going to be spread out throughout the entire month of November with all those deals there. So stay tuned to us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. We'll give you updates, but your thoughts on what's upcoming in the month of November. Shares your thoughts. popculturecosmos.yahoo.com. Well, coming up next, it is Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge with some early thoughts on the Eternals. Then after that, Josh and I will return with thoughts on our favorite Wes Anderson movies. We're also going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game, and how well it's performed so far. And then we're going to close out the show with some fond memories of a place that's almost near death in the retail world called Sears. We'll talk about that coming up on the back end of the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's my good friend, Mr. Josh Peterson, and me, Gerald Glassford, wearing my Oswald Rabbit ears here from Epic Mickey in honor of Halloween. And right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So before we head on out, my friend, I wanted to go ahead and ask you in regards to what's going on with the French Dispatch. French Dispatch, again, is one of those rare movies in this day and age in the middle of the pandemic for the movie theaters that has actually performed well per theater. It's per theater. Per theater, its debut earned more money per theater than any movie has during the course of the pandemic. So it earned more cash in each theater it was in. So it's really something that has done well in the limited number of theaters that it's been in. People just absolutely love Wes Anderson movies. I mean, there's this, maybe not a general audience, but there's a special group of individuals that out there that love Wes Anderson's movies. And I tell you what, I am one of them. I love a lot of the ones that he's already produced and directed, the ones that he's already directed. So I'm looking forward to catching the French Dispatch whenever I can. But your thoughts on Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch and the thoughts on some favorite Wes Anderson movies that you might have.
So I'm ashamed to say that like Wes Anderson films, like there's a bunch that I still want to watch because I haven't seen them. I have.
You should be ashamed.
I know. I've seen Moonrise Kingdom, and I've watched The Life Aquatic, which it's like one of my all-time favorite movies. And The Fantastic Mr. Fox is another one that I've seen. That one was a little weird, but it was good, I guess, if that makes sense. Isle of Dogs is one
They're all weird.
they're all weird, yeah, but they're all like they all
Wes
have
Anderson has a weird view of
yeah.
things.
You know, I still want to watch Royal Tenenbaums.
Very good movie.
Yeah,
Excellent
that's
movie.
what I've heard. And what's that one? Isle of Dogs is one that I still like really would like to
Excellent
see.
movie.
So
Yes, you just took my top two out of my mouth.
yeah, so those are. I mean, I really like I said, I got a lot of movies that I would like to watch. I just haven't haven't had a chance to sit down. But I people always tell me what a great what a great filmmaker he is, and from what I've seen so far, like I agree. I think he's got a style of his own.
Well, Rushmore was, I think, the movie that first really put him on the map, that got him noticed and acclaimed by a large enough audience to support his films. That was really the first time I noticed that Bill Murray was going to be a part of Wes Anderson's life in so many different fashions. And then, of course, after that, like you said, The Royal Tenenbaums is a movie that I really enjoyed. I think that's a really well thought out movie, and it has a great story to it. And it's something that he didn't go ahead and neglect any of the characters in the film. And I'm really happy that I got a chance to see that movie, because it's a sweeping story about not just one particular character, but a lot of characters. And I think that really is something to look forward to. I know the Grand Budapest Hotel, which came out last decade, that's a movie that a lot of people have some fondness for, and that's something I still have yet to check out. I know The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, like you said, is something that came out. A lot of people were interested in. I think a lot of people think it's very quirky, and I think that's why it has its charm. Isle of Dogs, if you've not seen Isle of Dogs, you're missing out, because this was a movie that I really, really enjoyed. And it's a very great animation tale for me. I think it really represented a lot of different things as far as themes are concerned, a lot of different themes that I really think were very, very cool to watch. These are some of my favorite Wes Anderson films. Again, some of which I need to see, some of which I already have, which I've truly enjoyed. I mean, the guy has just had this quirky way of filmmaking that has just gravitated to a certain particular group of individuals out there. I think a lot of people have still yet to see and experience Wes Anderson films.
Right.
And if you haven't, some people may not get his style of filmmaking. Let's just put it out there. But for those who do, it's truly enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. Like he's got his own like and there's not a lot of filmmakers these days that can truly say that like they have their own style. Like a lot of them will just do what they're told to do, but you still have these revolutionaries or these true artists, you know, like Wes Anderson, Kevin Smith, you have your what's his name, Denis Villeneuve. You know, like these people who do stay true to their visions, and people admire them for that. You know, like it hasn't seemed to lead any of them astray yet.
So that's good. I'm looking forward to seeing more from Wes Anderson. I'm hoping I will be able to catch The French Dispatch in the not too distant future. But if you have a particular favorite from Wes Anderson, whatever that may be, we would love to hear your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Plus, also as well, tell us your favorite Wes Anderson. Do you have like a countdown? Do you have like a list? Please let us know what your favorite Wes Anderson. Here's your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, before we head on out, a couple last things. Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game. I said we would be touching on this. I kind of saved it for you because I know we were really busy on the Friday PCC Multiverse. But my friend, I wanted to ask you this. When it comes to Guardians of the Galaxy video game, I think it speaks to the still relevancy of the narrative-driven, linear, single-focused video game. Because this game has really done well as far as from a critical standpoint. I don't know how well it's sold, but it has gotten the opposite reaction of what we've seen already with the previous Marvel's The Avengers from Square Enix. So this game has gotten an average Metacritic score of 81, which is really strong. And I think it's something that a lot of people should get into if they really like the Marvel stuff out there. But to me, it speaks about how the narrative linear, single-player, narrative-driven focused game really still has a place in this industry. I mean, we always talked about it before with the Uncharted games and how they're so well done, so well made. But your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned this because I was in Walmart the other day with the intention to buy it, and I sat there thinking to myself, I could buy this and I could play it, but then I'm never gonna finish what I'm currently playing. So I didn't end up buying it, but it is something that I do want to play because I've heard that unlike Avengers, you don't have to invest like hours and hours into this game. Like it's a pretty short experience, like 20 hours, I think, is what reviewers are saying. And it's a fun game from start to finish. It's just a fun ride, and like there's not a lot of games like that anymore that you don't have to really like invest your brain power into. Like it's just something you can sit down and play and it's still fun. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is what we call like a popcorn game where you can just kind of enjoy it and there's not like a lot of extra investment in it. And, I would hope that if Marvel does more like spin-off games like that, that they are in that vein. Like don't give us something, don't try to make these superhero games something that they're not meant to be.
Absolutely.
Like we've talked about Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man's an amazing game. Even like going back to Web of Shadows, great games because you're not like it's not overcomplicated with systems, and I think that's where Guardians is successful.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to getting a chance to playing it. I'm hoping it comes to eventually to Xbox Games Pass because I think that would be a great addition to Xbox Games Pass. So I'm hoping at some point in time, just like the Avengers, will be heading that way. Or it's available now on Xbox Games Pass, isn't that correct?
Yes, you can download. That was up like 2 weeks ago, so you can download and play that. I don't know how long it'll be up there for because the Eidos, I think, makes that game. The
Eidos, Square Enix and all that.
Yeah, those games have been they don't stay up for very long, so I would recommend sitting down playing it while you can.
There you go. But still, I'm hoping that at some point in time, Guardians of the Galaxy will be added to that list, or I may just get it outright. Maybe there'll be a good deal on it for Black Friday. We'll wait and see. But again, Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game, has garnered strong reviews and actually justified the position that was kind of being questioned at the end of this past decade, that if about the legitimacy, and the fact is the legitimacy and relevance of the single player narrative driven game, that if it still has a place in the video game world, and I believe it does, I believe it has, and I believe it will for quite some time. So I'm looking forward to seeing more narrative-driven, story-driven games from a linear fashion. Doesn't always have to be an open world. Doesn't always have to be a massive multiplayer experience. Every now and then we can just have a good single-player-based focused story that drives us through, tells a great narrative, and gets us through that we can actually fondly remember years down the line. So I'm hoping that there'll be more games like this going forward in the future, every now and then sprinkled in with all the other game experiences that you have, and that we don't forget about single player narrative games now and in the future as well.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on go?
Oh, I was gonna say absolutely. I agree with you because we need games like that because it seems like it's either you play this multiplayer game or you play this game that takes you 60 to 80 hours to finish.
Absolutely. It just tells a great story, and I'm very happy that I was very skeptical on it, and now I've seen all the reactions to it, seeing the great reviews for it, seeing the fact that a lot of people are enjoying it. That tells me that there is still room in the world, the video game world, for a single-player narrative-driven game. What are your thoughts out there on Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game? Please share us your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. Well, I want to thank so much Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge for joining us on today's program. Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate him stopping by, talking the Eternals, which we will talk much more about on our Friday show, the PC Multiverse. Plus also as well, again, we've got the latest news and trends in pop culture happening right there on Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos. Plus we are Facebook's #1 tabletop RPG streamer. And I wanted to let you know that we have a new audio channel that's now available for you to listen to. and that is RPG Adventures from the Pop Culture Cosmos. RPG Adventures with the Pop Culture Cosmos. That audio channel is now available wherever you get your podcast. So check that out. We'll be having some of our audio adventures from the RPG streams that we do coming there, plus also great conversations with our roundtable of DMs and GMs. We'll go ahead and put that there, right there. That's again the RPG. That's again RPG Adventures with the Pop Culture Cosmos. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts. All right, my friends. So before we head on out, we have one more toy memory, and actually video game memory. For me, it's more video game than toy memory when I talk of Sears. Sears is a once retail giant that was actually larger than any other retail giant that was out there for decades. It's a company that's well over a century old, and unfortunately has seen very hard times. And in the modern age of buying online and Walmart dominating and Target and Best Buy having their own niches out there, it has seen very hard times. That and Kmart, which it bought. Yeah, so Kmart and Sears are pretty much the same entity, and unfortunately, both have seen very hard times. Sears, for me, I have some great memories as far as going downstairs with the local in Torrance, California, checking out downstairs where all the video games were at. They had an entire video game section. They had an arcade. They had a snack bar. It was great. It's just a place where you can hang out for hours on end, and you didn't have to worry about going upstairs where mom has picked out some of the clearance clothes for you, like my mom did, which you won't talk too much about some of the choices. And yeah, Buster Brown. But I will say that this the experience that I had going and checking out all the video games that was there, the video game department that had, they really had some good stuff there. They had, the Atari stuff, but they also had their own brand of Atari. It was so funny because they had their own brand of Atari. They had their own brand of a television, and stuff like that. You could check out all of the latest video game systems there. Your thoughts on Sears?
So, it's weird you bring that up because, I actually have two different sets of memories on Sears. One, I remember, when I grew up at the Westminster Mall in California, or in Westminster, California, they had, Sears and JCPenney's, this mall was huge at this point, right? And all the department stores were still there. Everything was active still. Sears was where you could go, the moms could go upstairs and look at the clothing racks and all that and the baby stuff. And then you can go downstairs and you can look at there's tools and yard equipment and weightlifting stuff. It's literally the everyman store, right? You could buy anything from here. The video game section at mine though at Westminster was upstairs, and it was in the far corner of the store, and it was right kind of where security could keep an eye on it. And this was before they transitioned it all downstairs. But I remember it being in the corner, this one booth, it's so out of place. And, you had women's clothing to the left and children's clothing to the right. But you had this corner booth here. And in these glass cabinets, you would have your Sega Saturn games, your Genesis games, your PlayStation games, your Nintendo 64 games. And they had the glass cabinets, kind of like what they have in game stores now, that have things inside of them, like controllers and all that stuff. So everything was locked behind something. You could not just walk up and grab something. But anyways, I remember thinking recently that man, I really wish, even though I didn't own a lot of these consoles, I wish I would have just bought stuff, just to have some of everything, because a lot of that stuff is worth a lot of money now.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, and back then you could buy it for $40. But anyways, I remember back in this point though, this was before GameStop and everything was in the mall. They had a KB Toys that kind of had the same setup in the back, but you talk to the guy at the counter, and he didn't. The people working the counters here is always a male, and he never really had any idea about what any of this stuff was. He was just there as a job. He didn't really watch or play video games. Didn't really know too much about what he was selling. He just was there to sell it. So it was a very impersonable experience. Later on, they took that part and they moved it downstairs because there were more consoles out. They had the Xbox, and PlayStation was still making stuff for the PlayStation 1 and 2 at the same time. So they had expanded this whole thing to aisles of glass cases. And it was at that point, I remember they had clearance games. They had just a butt ton of accessories and Wii stuff, and all this. Like this was at the tail end of it all, and it was over down to the TV, so you can see what these consoles look like on the TVs. And they actually had people there that knew about video games, and that was fun because they would always be like, "Oh, hey, remember last time you were in here looking for this? Like, we got a copy of it in." Like, I will never forget. I was sitting there playing Legend of Legaia, and he like recommended Xenogears to me, but he's like, "Oh, we don't have any copies of Xenogears right now." But then when I went in a few weeks later, he was like, "Oh, hey, we have Xenogears here. I put a copy behind the stands for you, so just in case you came back in to grab it." So that was really cool. But I loved Sears, man. Like I love that experience of being a kid and playing video games and going down looking at video games while my parents are upstairs looking at other things. Like that was cool to me because you were able to kind of, at least in the second era of Sears I'm talking about, like you're able to interact with these games. They're all locked behind cases, but they always had things that other stores were sold out of. Like GameStop would be sold out of a game, Electronics Boutique would be sold out of a game, and Sears would always have it. So Sears was always like my go-to. Though it was a little bit pricier, in its later days, it was still, I don't know, there's still something magical about it, just like having aisles and aisles of games as opposed to just having games filled out on all the walls. It's just a different experience.
That's for sure. But it was something that back in the day, in the late 70s, early 80s, and mid 80s, for like you said, the systems started to come out, and they had their own versions of the Atari system, and then they had they had the regular Atari that you could get as well, but they had a lot of great variations. They did have the Intellivisions, they did have the ColecoVisions. They had made sure they had a lot of base. They made sure they had a great base and a great selection of stuff that's still there that you could try out and play. And again, it was really cool to be down there. They had the little arcade with arcade machines there. It was just, to me, an experience that I had at my local Sears that I was going to as a kid, and I would always really just enjoy every time that I went there. Again, while my mom perused the clearance market, but we won't go again back there. But again, I'm telling you right now, I'm so excited to go ahead and talk about this every single time out that we do, because it brings back such great memories. But Sears, there's less than 50 stores left, I think, nationwide here in the United States, and I think that's very sad. I know that I went to one in New Mexico. I think it was the last time I went to one, and there was not much of it left. You go inside, and there's not much left of anything, and I really am very sad to see what happened to Sears as an entity. They just didn't change with the times. It's something that I used to work for awards. The same thing. You don't change with the times. You don't continually reinvent yourself, continually modernize yourself. You're going to get left behind in the retail industry. And I experienced that firsthand, and I know people that love Sears has as well.
Do you think that maybe it's because they were popping up in like every new mall that was being built, and they kind of overextended themselves too?
Well, they did. Not only did they do that, but the fact is the mall, I mean, you could correlate with what went on with Sears with the mall experience. And for the most part, the mall experience in many locations has died out or become a dying entity because of it, because people have found it's so much easier to buy online or to experience things at a Walmart or just a couple stores. They've had no need to go to the malls. Yeah. And with that experience is the fact that Sears was so tied in so many ways to the mall experience, and they lived and died off of it. They once thrived, now they're dying.
Yeah, and that's again, those are eras we'll never get back to, unfortunately. But I do have fond memories. I think that with like Sears, they had their hands in too many cookie jars. They had electronics and yard stuff and all that. So, I mean, even in Sears' like final years, I always loved going in there because, they had really cool like Christmas decorations and Halloween decorations, and they put up a fight to the very end. It's just unfortunate that that ended up being the end of them. They didn't really transition very well into this online retail space, and I think that might have been the nail in the coffin for them.
What are your thoughts up there on Sears? Do you have some great memories of that long, well thought of retail outlet that unfortunately has seen better days and probably will not be something that we can show our kids or show our grandkids, in 10, 20 years, because it will probably be gone by the end of this decade. And if it stays alive, it's going to be in some different form altogether, I would imagine. But again, we have some great thoughts on Sears. So if you have some great memories of Sears as well, please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. Cannot thank you enough as always. Any last thoughts on the way out?
No, I mean, there's just a lot coming around the corner here. So I think that the next couple months will definitely be pretty busy. But, yeah, I think we covered everything. I just, I'm trying to think of like there's a lot more like toy memories that I'd like to get to in the coming weeks. But I'm saving the bigs for last.
Fair enough indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Joe Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great